Yeah, I'm Captain Scott Moore and Anna Maria, and I'm here with Tom Rowland, a Tom Rowland podcast.
Scott Moore, how are you, man?
I'm doing great, man.
Really?
Beautiful day outside. Anna Maria is, we came through a lot here.
Yeah.
We had probably about 4 foot of water that went over this island last year about this time. My house had about 3.5 foot of water. What you're looking at in this room back here, luckily a lot of this stuff was on the walls. We had 4 foot of water. This house has all been redone.
Really?
Yeah.
I do know just a little bit about this. We had about the same amount, about 4.5 feet of water in Wilma in Key West. And
wow.
I mean, I don't know if it really matters if you get 4 feet of water or 2 feet of water. You have to read the whole thing.
It doesn't. Yeah.
What was the vibe like? I mean, I've talked to a lot of people that were in that area this time last year. We were talking hurricanes a lot, but what about the recovery and the community? And a lot of times hurricanes can really bring out the best in people as you recover. I've noticed where the community really comes together. I don't know if you experienced that or what you're.
Oh, Tom, unbelievable! People don't realize we've got a community center now. Let me explain to you about Anna Maria. It's 7 miles long. You got Brighton Beach as a municipality. You got Holmes Beach as a municipality, and then you have the city of Anna Maria. Okay. In the city of Anna Maria, we have, it's really, really special up there. We have a community center. Now, it was unbelievable. After a storm, you really can't, when you get it back on the island, it's hard to get anywhere or get around. They set up and had everything you needed up there. It was phenomenal. If you needed toilet paper, if you needed water, whatever you needed, it was unbelievable. And, most of the people out here could afford it, but people volunteered and brought stuff and that was the life of the island for 2 or 3 months. Okay. Wow. Yeah, it was unbelievable.
How long were you without power, or the island without?
My house was shut. My house, actually, the island had power. Okay, they have a big line that comes in. It's just individual. All right, it depends on who, how much damage you had and what. They've got pretty high lines that on the island now. Okay, I would say here, we didn't come back. We didn't come back only to work on the house. I stayed at my son's house. My granddaughter gave me her bedroom until we got things going. It was quite a lot. And then we had the second storm. That was the first storm. Yeah. The second storm, we went to Wabasso and stayed at Wabasso. Within a mile or two, they had major tornadoes during the storm. So understanding. Now, Anna Maria, on the second storm, the Campeche storm, what people don't realize, we were on the northeast quadrant of the storm, okay? And so, which we had inflow winds, which drew the water out. We were lucky on that one. Now, I was not here at the time. I was on the East Coast, okay? But the schematics of what went on, and we've had hurricanes. I went through Donna in the 60s. We had just a little quadrant of the eye. By the way, the eye wall in Donna was 60 miles wide.
Wow.
It was almost a Punta Gorda. That was, when you look at these storms, some of these storms, Charlie was 2 mile wide. Okay. Right. And you look at some of what went on. Now, the first storm came up from the Caribbean and just pushed water straight at us along the coast. And, Anna Maria sticks out. So when that storm went by us, it piled a lot of water here. It did well. And the second storm, of course, Siesta Key South, they got hammered. Boca Grande, all the way to Fort Myers Beach. It was something.
Yeah. And so in all your years in Florida and was that the most difficult?
Oh, yeah. Yes. And listen, Tom, we haven't even really had as far as wind, we had 100-mile-an-hour winds here on the second storm. We've been fortunate there. Can you imagine what they went through in the Bahamas on that one storm? They had 24 hours of 100-mile-an-hour winds.
Yeah.
Okay. We have been very fortunate here. If we ever had a 4 or 5, it would be over for this island. Yeah. You know, of course, they had pretty bad down in Fort Myers and in Sanibel.
Yeah, it was bad. I went to Fort Myers shortly after that storm, and it was very significant. I mean, it looked the same. I mean, unfortunately, I've had the opportunity to go after Katrina. We went to Louisiana and saw that freshly after we shot a show up there. As soon as we could get in there, we went in there and shot a show with Anthony Randazzo, and that place was incredible, the things that we saw there. But you see the same type of destruction on a smaller storm in a place like your home, that island right there.
Yeah.
And Fort Myers.
Yes. Just, I really call Anna Maria my home growing up here. I grew up in West Bradenton, went to high school, moved to the island in 1970. But, I fished Charlotte Harbor. Mm-hmm. I had a lot of sponsors in Boca Grande. Mm-hmm. I kept my boat at Uncle Henry's. When it comes to fishing, you have all these different scenarios, as well as I do about that, whether you're fly fishing or just regular hook and line, regular reel fishing and stuff. But growing up in that and guiding at that time and making a living, for me, a lot of it was, like I said, I had a family. I lived in Anna Maria, and it was, paying the bills and working in Boca Grande. And like I said, I call Boca Grande my second home. I do want to say what's really interesting is that after the storm, I was in Boca Grande. My son's down there in the summertime. He fishes up here and he goes down there in the summer and stays on the beach like I used to do with my wife. But I noticed the mangroves was really interesting. Was the mangroves that were trimmed were covered with water, didn't get the defoliation like the mangroves that were up in the air that were able to get in the wind. And, Mother Nature kind of takes care of things sometimes when you think about it. If there's a big surge of water and it covers the mangroves, those particular mangroves are not going to get defoliated.
Right.
And I'm sure you've seen the schematics, okay? And some of the areas that, like I said, you'll go in, or they'll be on the lee side, and which side the wind was blowing the hardest, those mangroves. And if you're a good fisherman, where the groceries are going to be, where the fish are going to be. Yeah, it's right there where those mangroves are. I mean, it's very obvious. They're going to be right there, okay? They're going to be huddled up underneath them and around them.
The mangrove is, it has to be one of the most incredible pieces of vegetation we have on this planet. I don't know if you would agree with this. I think you probably would, but I don't know of a better windbreak than mangroves.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
It's just an incredible plant. And then how they can withstand these hurricanes and complete submersion. And then after some of our storms, we see a whole island where it's completely defoliated. These things look dead as dead can get.
Right.
And they come back.
Yeah.
Crazy how they do that.
Now, what we have here, Tom, on Perico, up Manatee River, and a just beautiful area from here, the east shore of Tampa Bay, is we've got these beautiful black mangroves. Mm-hmm. It's really, it's a different type of shoreline. Okay. You still have your buttonwoods, you got your blacks, and then you got your yellows and reds. Okay. Depending on the area. And what a lot of people don't realize about the blacks, how important they are. The black mangrove tree, if you're going along there and you look, you'll see the roots will be sticking up like this a lot. Okay. And they don't understand. A lot of people don't understand. If we had a tide that came in and covered those root systems for 2 or 3 months, it would kill that black mangrove. that water has to recede, come up and recede. It's really interesting about the black mangrove. Now, the problem is the erosion that happened up there with the northeast wind, okay, in that area, it really did some damage on the black mangroves. I was very concerned about that. We had 100-year-old black mangroves along, especially what the very famous area we call Seven Pines, which is Robson Preserve. It's a preserved area that we set aside over the years. It goes to the Manatee River.
Mm-hmm.
And there was quite a lot of damage. And you had water spouts and you had tornadoes.
Yeah.
The damage that they do on the shorelines.
The tornadoes were surprising to me, how many there were. But I think that, like, when we've had storms in the Keys, we had Irma in that hit Duck Key real hard, and we went down there shortly after to help, our friends, and you would notice that there would be straight line damage because we're approaching from a boat, right? And so as you're going down the coastline, you're seeing, on the front, it looks like, well, that house didn't have much damage, and this one had a little more, and that one's really bad, and this one. But then when you would go down, you would line it up like trees in an orchard, and you would see that there would be straight line damage. And that house was messed up, and that house, and that house, and that house. But you couldn't necessarily see it while you're driving in a car or anything.
Right.
You needed to be out in a boat to see that. But I think that I think you probably have more tornadoes when you have a hurricane than maybe we. How would you know? But it's just super windy outside. But how do you know? That there's a tornado, because you can see it necessarily, and maybe with some of the technology you can kind of see it, but after the fact you can really see that tornado damage it's different.
Now, when we talk about the north end of Anna Maria, you had the city pier that was just redone, the whole pier, and it was supposed to be done with 100-year, this, that, and the other, and a historical rod and reel pier. It was the heart of the island. And the rod and reel was completely destroyed, Tom. Gone. It's gone. And so we're thinking a tornado water spout came in there and then came down that line. And I'll tell you where I was observing. I was going down the Galati's, driving down Boulevard, and there's homes. There's one that had the roof was off. The other one had a metal roof, but it wasn't off. But I did notice one thing. On the lee side, on the south side of the trim, it was buckled back. And I said, they didn't have enough wind to do that coming from the south. So, seeing that metal twisted and all that twisting going on, that's probably what happened. There was a skipping tornado that did that, It changes a lot. Changes a lot.
Now, how are those buttonwood trees that you were talking about? How are those looking today?
Well, the buttonwoods along that area, a lot of them, they were defoliated, okay, in some areas. On the lee side, you can take the lee side of the Allens, they're in good shape. Matter of fact, there's a restaurant, Lombo Key, and they have 100-year-old, really nice place, and they have 100 Mar Vista. Ed Childs used to own it, and he sold it. The Mar Vista restaurant's famous. It was a fish camp in the years and years and years ago. It's a restaurant today, and there is beautiful, Tom. Some of the oldest buttonwoods in Florida. You can sit around and have dinner and lunch, and they were all. Had a lot of defoliation, but they're coming back. We were very concerned with that, and they're fine. They're fine. But those are some of the oldest buttonwoods that I've ever seen in Florida.
Wow.
Okay. It's called Mar Vista Restaurant on Lombo Key.
I'll have to go there. I don't think I've been to that restaurant. I certainly have been to Longboat Key. Now, tell me about you were saying that the mangroves that had been trimmed were you saying that they did better than the mangrove?
They actually did better. The green mangrove, when you go down when I went down to Boca Grande last summer, and I was down there a couple of times, the mangroves that were trimmed, that were bushed out, okay, which I am not against. The big thing is you're saving that they do great, Okay. You're the property owner. They don't realize it helps with the erosion. When they're trimming them, the cuttings go back in the water. It's all documented. Okay. Instead of ripping them out.
Right. Well,
okay. You want to encourage trimming. Okay.
Right.
And that way the homeowner can get their view and the mangroves are still there. It's still, it actually makes them healthier.
There was a time, though, that was really discouraged, right? Trimming the mangrove.
There was a time, yes. It got, okay. Believe it or not, in the legislature, one of the biggest developers on the west coast of Florida asked somebody to write a bill to save the mangroves at the time. And it's kind of interesting. And think about it. If you're a developer, would you rather have the mangroves there or a cement? Think about it. Okay. You're not ripping stuff out and putting stuff in.
Right.
You're leaving it there. It's all about the view. You know that, Tom. It's all about the view. Okay. Yeah. And if they come, and that's what's so interesting about the podcast and educating people like you are right now. People, think of the people that have moved here and are moving here, educating them. They don't have a clue growing up what we went through in Florida. Okay. Why we're trying, people, I'm sure they're thinking, what are they talking about? Why are they so this way about saving things? What you see. If you educate them,
why don't you take this opportunity to kind of walk through what you've seen in Florida and what it used to look like and why it is so important that we try to save these things?
Well, I was in high school. It was 60,000 people in Manatee County. Now there's 400. Okay. Now there's 400. But I can tell you, over the years, especially in our preserves, I worked really hard with developers, got some with legislatures. We've got Robson Preserve, Emerson. These are areas that we set aside. That's so important. I've been trying to get rattlesnake bought by the state. Actually, the state came up with the money and DEP lowballed them. They didn't say that the property wasn't worth it and all this. Let me tell you, that property up there is worth at $50 to $100 million. It's adjacent to the Skyway. You ever gone across the Skyway?
Yeah, I have.
You know the pay toll on the south side?
Yeah.
There's a mile of property adjacent to that. Okay. And DEP turned that down.
Wow. So what's going to happen?
At 22, it's over $20 million. Who knows? By the way, you could see a Disney cruise port go in there. I mean, I don't really care about the upland. I would do a trade-off on that. Okay. It's not up to me, but environmentally, I would give up that if they would set the rest aside. Okay, that's where we're at with things. Oh, I'd like to see it all bought. Right. And by the way, the state of Florida, in North Florida right now, 4 acres, they're going to pay $83 million on the beach.
Wow.
What's up with that? They're spending money. I don't know. I don't understand that. And this property goes all the way to Terracea. And Tom, it's a fish. It's probably produces, that estuary probably produces close to 1/3 of our fish in Tampa Bay.
Wow.
Because of the estuary in itself. Even though the mangroves can't be, and you say that, there's some upland area, but there also is, there could be mitigation rights, and there's also bottom rights, okay? A lot of these older properties. It's interesting.
And so bottom rights, they would actually own the ocean floor?
A lot of your places, a lot of your huge marinas, a lot of your big developments, yes. That's where it all came out. Yeah, I don't know where it is today, but yes. Oh, absolutely. Down in Boca Grande, the guy that had my marina owned the bottom all the way to Boca Grande Isles. in the water.
Wow.
Now, he set aside a beautiful piece of property and gave it to Boca Grande Conservancy. Okay. All right. So, but he had mitigation rights. Unbelievable. He owned 3 sisters. He was really good for Boca Grande.
Wow. So you've really through your career, you've been on the water for 50 years, right?
Yeah. I've been guiding since, well, I got my license in 79.
Okay, so 79. So that's a significant amount of time. And in that time, you've done a tremendous amount of work with conservation, setting these places aside, educating people on why it's important. And that all started from the perspective of a fishing guide. Is that right? And so what was it that was a threat or got you started down this road?
Snook. SNOOK. Also, Tom, thank God we've got you and a lot of the podcasts that are going on everywhere. We had outdoor writers back then.
Mm-hmm.
We had papers. Now, how could you have a paper in the state of Florida and not have an outdoor section?
Right.
I mean, come on. Okay. And it's crazy what happened. The evolution of papers. Of course, we have the internet. We still have that. I was fortunate enough to grow up. A lifetime friend was named very, very, very good writer, G.B. Knowles. He won, I think, between him and Sergeant Franklin. Now, there was a lot of good writers. Don't get me wrong. I'm leaving some people out here.
Sure.
But I was very fortunate. GB, we wrote a book together, the Snook book. And, it was a start at that time. But going to the first Snook symposiums and seeing, the state and the revolving of the science on our fisheries, which was very important. And, we had the legislature. Everything was up to the legislature. Okay. We had to go up there. Whoever had the money, whoever had this, you still had the gill netting, which was, everybody does at one point don't understand. That was a gear restriction. That was no different than you and I not being able to use a treble hook. Okay. People don't understand that. They don't get it. But also there's people moving here from up north that don't know about the history, which was really important. The reason why we had to get
Well, let's talk about that real quick, just so everybody's on the same page. The snook, the danger to the snook were the gill nets. Is that correct?
That was one of them. Of course, it even goes back farther. Before that, though, Tom, I want to tell you, they were spraying for mosquitoes. They were using, I've got pictures I could send you. They may still do it down there, where they technically today they do larvicizing a lot, which is a where they drop pellets and it kills the larvae of the mosquitoes. But guess what? When they were spraying, they were killing one of the food. And with fish, it's all about the groceries, period. People don't realize it's connected. It's all about, whether they're spawning or not, it's all about the groceries. Okay. The snook eat the immature snook eat the gambusi minnow, which eats the mosquito larvae and the mosquito. Okay. And when they spray, they kill them, which that would knock your snook population down pretty well. Okay. It was not a good scene at the time. And they sprayed the Everglades. They sprayed down there. Okay. And there was a lot of that going on. They sprayed up here too, everywhere, especially Boca Grande. Those planes would come over. And if you were outside, you better get inside because it was fogging. That's what they did to knock them down. I mean, the mosquitoes were really bad. You couldn't get, when I first went to Charlotte Harbor in the middle of the day, you couldn't get within 100 yards of a lot of mangrove edges. They'd come out of the mosquitoes would eat you up, eat you alive. And then they got into this larvicizing and being able to control them. You still have mosquitoes, but not like that. Those are salt marsh mosquitoes, by the way. They're not the freshwater.
Right.
There's a different. The Egypti is different. Okay, but they're still bad.
So when that's going on, where does your involvement start?
Well, the first it was really interesting. This story is great story. Brugger was one of the scientists. Phil Chapman with freshwater scene was really good with snooks, and Phil was a very good friend of mine, and he did a lot with bass. He was with the commission for many years, FWC, biologist, one of our best. Loved to fish, hell of a fly fisherman. Now, the first snook symposium with Brugger, when I was a kid, my father worked for a mowing company, and he sold Manco mowers, and they had a convention down there. And as a kid, I walked out on the pier in Naples. The water was clear. Tom, there was a football field ball of snook on that beach that dropped out of the glades. And they would drop out and spawn on that beach in the summer. And it was really funny. The first picture Brugger's got up during that, we're talking about snook. It was the first snook symposium. He had the picture of the boat with the seine with all these snook in it. And I said, "You're right next to the Naples Pier." And he goes, "How do you know that? How do you know?" I said, "Because when I was a kid, I saw him there, Anyway, what was so good is the science revolved from there, and that we had the ball rolling, because it was all about snook. And by the way, nobody knew anything about catching snook. Everybody was closed mouth. And it was the same thing with bonefish. If you weren't tight with anybody, you had a hard time catching bonefish. Okay? If you didn't know Bill Curtis and some of these older guides that taught these people, okay, you didn't know the spin there was on bonefish.
So was that because they were protective of their knowledge, or because
very protective.
Okay, so the only way you were going to find out how to catch a bonefish was to buy a day with them, and go. That's
right.
Okay,
and some of the best, you look at Huff and you look at the guy fly fishing, of course, and some hook and line. I'm sure they did some real fishing, but some of the best at the time when Huff was the number one. When I first started, I had an Aquasport, and all that was revolving when I first, I revolved into boats. Okay, I went a different direction. I have so much respect for a guy that is poling a boat and has a fly fisherman or a reel fisherman on the front of that boat. It's a lot of work. Mm-hmm. It's a lot of patience. It takes a certain person to do that. Okay. I did it. I went a little different. I could have done the offshore. Mm-hmm. Okay. I had a tower built for a 24-foot boat, and it was one of the first ever built.
Did you have control from the top? Yeah. Drive from the top? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the first. Commercial, Van Hubbard had one in St. Pete. Okay. By the way, Van was a guide in St. Pete. I was a guide in Manatee County. That's all there was. And Johnny Walker was in Sarasota. Now, there was a few before that, but there wasn't that. We're talking about inshore now, not offshore. There was offshore guys. Okay. I had, matter of fact, I'll never forget it. One time, Bill Miller told me, "You think you can make it as an inshore guide?" Okay. That was, it was revolving. It was evolving. All right. At that time.
So why was it that you chose this different direction to build out that boat, to put the tower on it? What did you see that led you in that direction? Was it
a lot of it too was bait, and when I tarpon fish, back then I strictly fished maybe bay or along the beach on tarpons. I didn't concentrate as much on the past, maybe the hill tides, the crab flushes. Mm-hmm. By the way, the reason why the tarpon are there is one reason: the crabs.
Right.
and how important that estuary is. Everything's connected in managing that. There should be so much science in protecting those mackerel crabs, brown crabs, and the crabs coming out of these estuaries than there is the tarpon. Aaron Adams is a great scientist. And I told him right to his face, I said, Aaron, there isn't enough science on that. We're all worried about the tarpon, and we're not worried about the groceries.
Right.
Okay? Because they're not going to be here if you don't have the groceries. I try to connect that. But getting back to what you asked about the snooks, there was a lot of mystique. It was a big deal. They were very, very closed mouth. Listen, there was people that taught me. Matter of fact, it was a warden that took me snook fishing. We wade fished. We pothole fished and wade fished. But I had a warden take me to Port Manatee. My first time in a boat going to catch snook. I went with a warden. He didn't. By the way, back then, nobody knew how to throw a cast net. Only a few of us knew how to. And the first net that there was no monofilament cast nets. Okay, they were nylon. We used to have to dip them in timber tocks. Okay,
what's timber tocks?
Well, it kept the net from rotting.
Okay,
it was not good.
It
was the same thing that they would soak the pilings in to build the trestles and stuff. Technically, to keep the net kept the net from rotting and stiff. Yep.
Okay. And so you go with this warden and you take a cast net, or
I caught the bait at the rod and reel pier. We put it in a well. Back then, you had live wells. All you had was holes in the bottom of the boat. There was no pumps. That all revolved. Okay. I thought I was hot shot when I had bait wells put on the back of my 19-foot shallow sport. And Aquasport. I'm sorry, not had shallow port later, but one of the first, by the way, in Florida. I had it built in Texas. Interesting, evolving the bait wells. I mean, it's incredible. Like I said, you drilled holes where the water came in and drilled holes where the water went out, and you flowed. And that's what you had for a bait well. And you better have drilled them right, or you could sink your boat.
Right.
Seriously, you laugh.
Could you keep alive in something like that?
Maybe 100 if you dump water in there every once in a while, which you could. Okay, but that's all you needed. Technically, you could chum a little bit, if you wanted to. Anyway, we went up there. We caught I don't know how many snooks. We caught over our limit, but I was allowed to keep 4. And he kept a few more, but he gave them away when we got back to the pier.
This is the warden?
Okay. Yeah. He gave them away to people at the pier. He was a good guy. He was a great guy. But that was DNR. Back then it was DNR. Yeah, we're talking about the 60s now. Okay.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so when you're doing this back then, we're talking about some of the changes for the boats and where we were with the boats. Like, what horsepower motor were you running on that boat?
Well, on that first one, I had 100 horse Johnson.
Was that tiller or?
Yeah. No. On the Aquasport, I ran a Johnson. I didn't change over. Lifetime friend Dave Miller, Cannon's Marina. I moved over to Yamaha. I've been a Yamaha. I've been on the program originally. Now Van Hubbard had the first Yamaha on a commercial kicker boat, and then my buddy Jim O'Neill had a Yamaha that he had the first year that the first year that Yamaha came out. Jim O'Neill bought a Cannon's Marina, Lombo Key. He bought that. And I said, Jim, did you change any power packs this year? I didn't even change the plugs. I was still running Johnson. Okay. You had to change the plugs regularly. Okay. It was the oil. It was all about the oil running deal. The next year, I bought a Yamaha. I went to Cannons and got a Yamaha. I've been with them since. That was 83, probably 83. Yeah. I bought that 83, 84, trying to think 83, 84, 85, because I was down in Boca, probably 84, probably 84. And from then on out, Yamahas.
Okay.
Today, there's a 300 on the same boat. It's been done 3 times.
The same Aquasport?
No. I had an Aquasport. Okay. And then I bought a privateer.
Okay.
And the privateer has been redone 3 times.
All right.
And my good buddy Scott Schoaf with T-Craft Boats, which he doesn't do other than building those boats. I took him that boat during COVID, and he made an exception for me and redid my boat completely.
Wow.
So I guess the kids are going to bury me in my boat.
So before, let's walk through the boats that you had when you first started guiding. What did you start it with?
Oh, I had a 16-foot Orlando Clipper. They were tri-hull boats. And there was a guy named Russ Mitchell that made these boats in Bradenton, Mitchell Boats, and a bunch of people had them here. They were a tri-hull, but you had a center 2 live wells where you could carry your boat. By the way, very few people fished out of a boat when they were snook fishing. It was all wade fishing. Okay. They would get out of the boat and wade fish.
That's what
That's the way, other than the passes or around the skyway or around the docks and stuff.
What was the philosophy around that? Was it so that you could feel the potholes in the bottom, or like what?
No, you could wade, and as well, being a good fisherman, if you had fish dropping out, you could go with them, not move the boat, and you could chum a little bit, you could wade, and when the fish popped, you could move to them, and it was great, and we have great wading bottom up here. It's not like Boca Grande. You go out for Turtle Bay and tell me come back with a fly rod off the tip of the mouth of Turtle Bay, the first shell bar on the outside, and tell me you want to wade that bottom. It's worse than the Keys. Okay. Your ankles are you'll be sucking mud. Yeah. Okay. And any of those tail and redfish or anything, bottom is different.
So what would change that gave people the confidence to start fishing out of the boat?
Well, me, guides, people. Okay. Now, I have a good friend and a family that I highly respect. Their grandfather was Harold LeMaster, the inventor of the Mirror. Good friend of mine, Frank Botnick, in Charlotte Harbor, would get out of the boat, still does a little bit, and actually walk the boat like he was wade fishing. And he's caught millions of fish. Frank's probably one of the best guides in Boca Grande, to this day. Doing that was able to sneak up on the fish. And of course, other guides started doing it. But back then, I actually did it a little bit. Okay. All right. Walked the boat, chummed a little bit. And that was evolving, starting that. But back then, we were still using mono, which braid changed everything. Right. Okay. All right. I mean, it changed the whole fishery. I mean, snook weren't going to go in the mangroves. Okay. And if you did the down and dirty and you were smart and knew some things, you didn't have that problem. Okay. There was tricks you could do, not all the time, but you sure could put some pressure on. By the way, when you had monofilament, if you were fishing real light, and most of them fished nothing under 10 pound. When I started fishing, 8 pound was unheard of. We did it. Okay. Got more bites. It was more, but that snook going across that grass in the summer, it cuts your line.
Mm-hmm.
You had to keep it up. That's when we were using longer poles, 8-foot rods.
I want to talk about that because we're talking about the boat. So you started out with a 16-foot boat. Now tell me about like when you were first starting out, what the tackle was like. You were just starting to do it.
By the way, back then, most of the snook fishermen used bait casting.
Okay.
Period.
Bait casters.
They use bait casters.
And
They cracker cast or cast with bait casting rods, smoother drag. Okay.
But a spinning rod at that time was like a new invention.
That evolved with your customers.
Okay.
Absolutely. That's when I got in, doing the fishing out of the boat and doing that scenario came with the customers. Okay. That's where that all about evolves from.
When your customers come down with a bait caster and you're saying they're using an 8.5-foot rod, is that?
No, not at that. Well, most of them sometimes 9-foot rods. Yeah, they used it. Yeah. They were using monofilament. Yep.
And
Now again, the most snook fishermen, that's what they were using. They were using Lamiglass rods. You were lucky you could get a hurricane rod. You could get some of these. Most of them were Lamiglass, and they were custom made. Okay, they're involved in it. And then I think Daiwa, when I was guiding, poured in with 8-foot rods, and involved in what we called our bait fishery type thing a lot. And then G. Loomis.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. G. Loomis came in and all my rods on the boat for a long time were G. Loomis.
And so we've had some major changes. Of course, the rod materials are a major change, but the braid, and then the braid changes the reels, and the reels get smaller and better, and everything gets better, including the boats and the live wells and everything that you've seen in your career. I wonder it's pretty obvious the things that have changed and have gotten much better. But what, in your opinion, in a career over 50 years of guiding, what has stayed the same?
I think the fact that they're just fish, it depends on how much energy and how much work you want to do to catch them. Okay. People don't realize. Okay, you have a recreational fisherman. He sits on the bank and he throws a line out, and even your guides. There's a lot of good. The tournament fishing, okay, really evolved a lot in our fishery, with the actual schematics of fishing and doing things. That really changed a lot. Even the dead bait fishing that revolved on when you had the redfish tournaments. We never dead baited for snook. We knew about it, but how easy is it to catch? Okay, snooks with dead baits on the bottom, and that evolving, some of the things that evolved. Basically, I would, what is not changed, okay, is like I said, is the ones that are going to catch fish are the ones that work hardest about it, okay, who are passionate about it. So a lot of the tournament fishermen, I mean, they're passionate.
Yeah.
They really are.
Do what it takes, whatever that is.
Yeah, I wasn't a tournament fisherman, and I'll tell you why. I have to fish a tournament every day with my clients, number one. Number two, I'm in the entertainment business. When you have a major client that books you so many days out of the year, and he brings a guest, and I don't care who it is, okay? And I've had some who-whos or people on my boat that never caught a snook before, okay? Never caught a redfish before. You got a lot of times you're teaching them how to cast that same day, how to, and helping them, not embarrassing them, and teaching them, okay? It's really appreciated. And, the final line is catching the fish, not yelling and screaming at them, only when it's not safe. Okay. But that was part of the whole thing, the scenario of my customers. And then I had hardcore people too that didn't bring anybody else. They want to fish.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't want you fishing with them.
That's
a lot of times the reason why I fish is to show them what I'm doing. And I say that to people. Do you mind if I fish? Okay. Do you mind if I fish? A lot of times when you fish a little bit and show them, and they pay attention.
Yeah.
Most people don't. The biggest problem is they don't even truly know how to cast. They don't know where to they don't know where to position the reel to open it.
That's right.
Not knowing you could break the bail. Right. I know you're laughing because you see it,
Oh, you see it.
Yeah.
You see it very often. So would you think that like, I like what you were talking about being in the entertainment business. That's what I always said about guiding is that I basically had, some chief responsibilities. One, keep people safe. Two, to teach them something. And way down the list was catch a fish for them. But at the end of the day, they had such a good time that they wanted to go again. And everybody came home safe and everybody had a good time. And if we caught fish, that was a bonus. Now, secretly,
yes, sir.
I'm thinking catching fish is hugely important. I'm not going to,
right.
Responsibility, but that's my responsibility after I've been safe and entertained everyone and showed them a really good time.
Right.
And now we're going to catch fish.
And
and then if you're a really good guide, you start to operate in a way that being safe, having a good time, treating people with respect, being on time, having all your gear clean and perfect and everything. That's all your general mode of operation. So now you can concentrate on catching fish because you're never going to let these other responsibilities go. And I wonder if when you see, a lot's changed in guiding and a lot's changed in how we acquire customers with the internet and social media and everything else.
Different.
And I just wonder, in that situation, have those core tenets of guiding, like we're both talking about, have those changed, or is that something that?
No, it's definitely changed. It's a hoopla. It depends on the area. It depends on the tourism. Of course, it happened in the Keys. Okay, but you still had people coming there. Okay, but you're going to have that anywhere where you have tourists.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. It happened in Anna Maria here. I mean, we have on an average day, 30 guides running here. Okay. With tourism, as many as in Manatee County, a good 70 every day during the spring, peak time, February, March, through April, into April, your peak time.
Yeah.
Could be as close to 100 with tour boats too. We have a lot of tour boats too.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But Tom, what's really important that I want to get across to people is years ago, I have people walk up to me. What are you telling? What are you telling these people how to snook fish? Why are you doing that? I had guys that they weren't happy about it. But here's my thinking and my philosophy. If you taught people how to fish, then you could go to them to help you protect that fishery. That was my thinking. And believe me, it worked. Because there was times I could get on the phone and say, hey, I need, this guy wants to do this, or we've got this in the legislature, or we've got this. It worked. Mm-hmm. It worked, It worked.
If people aren't aware of what's out there, then they have no reason to protect it.
That's right. And we're at that point again today for the these younger ones. You got to get out there. I mean, we like here in our town in this particular area, you can't be beating the same drum all the time. But when you got new people in it and fighting hard, we have an organization here called Water Keepers, and they're great, and they're in there. It's like Captains for Clean Waters, Coastal Conservation Association. You need all these different organizations. You need this one doing this one doing this one doing this one. And the reason why we have banquets, because it takes money. I heard that quoted by some famous people. Oh, all they do is banquets? Well, where are you going to be in the legislature? you've got to hire people, okay, consultants. It takes money. That's why you have that. That's why you have that.
It takes money and it takes like political pull, economic pull. People that are influential often are the people that attend a lot of those banquets. And when you can get those people on your side, and they're only going to be on your side if they also enjoy what's important to you.
And there's an environmental side too. You know that as well as I do. All right. I had a young legislature here a while back. He's been really good. Will Lobson, and he's been really good. And when he first started running, and he's done a really good job for us here. And I said, "You sure you're going to want this job? Because, boy, there's going to be a lot of environmental issues." He grew up here, and he's been really good for us here in Manatee County. Once you connect with these people and don't embarrass them and treat them with respect, and you can have a great conversation and show them the differences, And there's a lot of reality, that, okay? It works, okay? It works.
Well, it certainly worked for you to the degree that you just had this boat ramp named after you because of.
Oh yeah, the county surprised me with that. Yeah,
what is that?
Because I guess it all evolved. I've done a lot. I fished Bill Mote, the founder of Mote Marine Lab, for years. Okay, I fished Carol Barnett Jenkins, which is Publix, and Justin still fishes Barney with Publix, and Carol and a lot of people that were influential and caring about what our seas and what's out there, and also our county commissioners evolving. We're talking about when I first started guiding. They wanted to put condos. We have a beautiful park here, DeSoto National Monument.
Mm-hmm. And
across the river is what is now Emerson Preserve. Okay. It's a county preserve. It's beautiful. It's a park. They wanted to put condos there. Okay. I called one of the biggest realtors in the state of Florida. This was years ago, and asked her, I said, "I need help on this. Who would want to build that there?" And, this, that, and the other. And, first of all, the road goes underwater anyway.
Mm-hmm.
It's a nightmare. We were able to acquire that through the legislature, through some of the biggest developers in the county that helped us with the county. And we, of course, our Manatee County, we've been very fortunate with our parks and recreational. We've had people in there that have done a tremendous job acquiring wetlands and doing what we have. We've been very fortunate here, okay? Not just state, but county. And getting involved, Robson Preserve, Emerson, and a lot of this, what was happening on the island, okay? I also was inducted in the Aquaculture Manatee County Hall of Fame because of aquaculture, which Bill Mote was very involved just before he left this world. It was very important to him because we knew, and I agreed with him, that it's not sustainable, okay? If it's done right, you can have aquaculture. Look at it today. Your clams, your oysters. You look at all your oysters today.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Apalachicola would be wiped out. They couldn't handle it all if it wasn't what was going on. You still have them. You still have that great oyster. But anyway, aquaculture was a big thing, okay, with me and with Moat. And we've got the huge Moat Aquarium now just opened up, UTC Mall. I encourage everybody to go there. It's incredible. Okay. And that's Bill's vision, was we've taken back all these years from the sea. His his statement was, let's give something. Let's give something, okay? And aquaculture can be good right now. I mean, Moat's raising fish over there, and the byproduct, Tom, they're incredible. You may want to go over there sometime and check that aquaculture out. They are completely closed system. There is no pollution. Wow. It's all used. It's crazy. Okay, at the aquaculture park they have in Sarasota, that's Mote Marine Lab.
And what all are they growing there?
Oh, they're growing. They've got snook. Okay, they do Snook research. All right. They're doing different species. They're doing some redfish. They're going to do something. There's going to be some farm raised redfish, and do something down in Pine Island on raising redfish. I'm really excited. Hopefully, this mullet thing will go off. Listen, I want you to think about this.
What's the mullet thing before we can move on?
Well, I hope they can raise mullet.
Okay.
Because you can use it for a food source for the aquariums.
Sure.
Think of all the aquariums there are in the United States. Do you want them out there do you want them out there catching our food fish and our game fish bait, pilchards, scaled sardines, which is a herringula, the scaled sardine? You want them catching them to feed the birds and feed the aquariums?
Right.
No. We've got enough problem out here with water quality problems.
Yep. That would be a really, I've never thought about feeding aquarium fish and other fish like that.
Absolutely. Yeah.
That would be a really great use of farm raised.
And they're doing that. And that's why you have the science, okay, which is so important.
Mm-hmm. So tell me about what happened when you got this boat ramp named after you. What was the reason that they decided to give it to you?
Well, because of what I've done conservation wise in Manatee County.
Yeah,
helping putting the preserves, educating people, and all the science evolving around, even the net ban. Even though Cortez is one of the, it hurt me in a way because it hurt people. It could have been done a little better, but at the time that was the politics, and I could have really done a better job if I was in charge. But at the time, it was the legislature. Okay,
but this is the mullet net ban that you're talking about.
Yeah, the net ban.
And so, how could you have done a better job in hindsight?
Well, I think they could have gave them restricted licenses, all of them, even if it was cast netting, because even that got out of hand. Okay, they found out that you could catch as many with a cast net as you could with a gill net. The only trouble is you didn't have the bycatch. Right. The bycatch was not sustainable. Okay. All right. The gill, it's a gear restriction. Okay. Better than anything. 90% of the problem from day one in Florida to this day is law enforcement. And the legislature has never, ever put enough law. If you take the people amount of fishing, also a saltwater fishing license for everybody. If you fish in the water and you're holding a pole, you should be paying for a license because the feds can match that. You go anywhere else, okay, and you have that. Even though I'm a guide, when we first started, I started the Florida Guides Association. Okay, one of the things with the Florida Guides Association was thinking, was going to the legislature, okay, and enacting some of these laws. Now, back then, I was all for, Tom, the recreational license on my boat. Anybody on my boat was covered. Okay, but you think about what we've lost, okay, of the amount of people that would be contributing to that. Now, as I say that, I think the people on your boat could get it, how many people you take, be accounted. Okay. All right. There's no reason why they couldn't be counted even though I bought that license. In other words, if you had 3 people come on your boat, or of course, skiff guides, there's only a couple, 3 or 4. I limit most of mine with 4, fish 3. Okay. I didn't pile on what's going on now, 6 double trips with 6 people, that kind of thing. but those people should be accounted for in our fishery. And they're taking fish out of the water.
Mm-hmm.
All right. When I say that, even though that license, you bought it, they should be accounted that they fished in our waters.
And so when you're saying accounted for, what do you mean other than paying for a license?
The license, those people, it was like they bought a license.
Right.
Okay. Their names and everything. That should be, and then we should be getting money. But like I said, with law enforcement, the legislature, they've dropped the ball from day one. We've never had the officers that we needed to have. There's always been an excuse. Okay. There's always been an excuse. The problem with the state of Florida, they only need one law enforcement officer. It's called the Florida Department of Law Enforcement. Do you know what it costs every year to have different tags, different belts, different uniforms for all these different agencies? The Highway Patrol. Just think if the Highway Patrol was Florida Department of Law Enforcement, FWC was Florida Department of Law Enforcement, they all get the same pay. They have a level to go up. Okay. None of the good old boys. All right. One law enforcement. That highway patrolman running down the road went over the Cortez Bridge. That guy fishing wouldn't even know if it was a wildlife officer or anything. And look at the money you'd be saving. One officer should not be making more than the other. Why? Because the Florida Highway Patrol the guy that's the head of the Florida Highway Patrol goes to the legislature and gets money every year. That's how they get their money. The head of the FWC, same way. That's how they get their money. And they all should have the same pay scale. That's what I'm saying as an officer.
Do you think that there's a way that could happen?
I doubt it. Not with this legislature. They take them off the water. They took the FWC, the Florida legislature took the FWC off the water, unless you and me call. One of the FWC, one of the legislature complained on the East Coast being stopped by the FWC. We don't have any FWC. We never see an FWC. You ask anybody on this coast, there's no FWC officers unless they're called, unless people complain. It's sad. I'll be the first one to admit that. Okay.
I'll tell you what, when you have no officer out there regularly, then you get called. How does that person even know their way around enough to go navigate the shallow waters? Like it's not like it's just you follow your phone navigation. I mean, you got to know your way around, and you only know your way around from being out there. So unless that person was raised there and was a fisherman beforehand, you're not getting back in the
no. And Tom, I want to make something very clear. It has nothing to do with the officer itself. They're stretched. They'll tell you they do. They probably don't want to lose you. They don't. For the amount of people and the amount of boats that are on the water. Now, we do have a sheriff department. Okay. We got Lombo Key, you got your municipalities. But most of the area in the municipalities, they can only, they're deputized in that one area most of the time.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. By the way, any officer on a state statute law in their municipality can enforce any law, whether it's a fisheries violation, whether there is, if it's a state statute law, they can enforce it in a municipality. If you're a sheriff, you can enforce that. If there was a snook season closed and a guy's walking down the bridge with a snook in his hand, that sheriff could arrest that guy. Okay, well, not arrest him, but he could retain him,
right?
And actually, he probably would go to court too. But bottom line is, that's a state statute law. I had a judge tell me that during the net ban when they were still running around. Okay. Bottom line is management. And another thing is, here it is, right here. We had a game and fish transfer. And people don't understand it. It was a piece of the pie. And in that constitutional amendment, is so much money goes to research, so much money goes to education, so much money goes to law enforcement. And I'll bet you right now, if we put pressure, the right people, it ain't there. It's not there. They can't prove it. They and of course they're going to try to say something different, but we don't have it here.
Yeah.
It actually, most people that grew up here, it's a joke. It's a joke. It has nothing to do with FWC itself. I'm blaming the Florida legislature.
Yeah. It's where the money comes from.
That's where the money comes from. That's right. And by the way, it should be one agency. Okay, I'm telling you. And under that, you have FWC. It should be one agency, the Florida Department of Law Enforcement, FDLE. Okay, and they're all got the same. They can talk to each other, not this different radios. Some of them, by the way, down in Charlotte Harbor, there was officers that didn't even have radios years ago. CCA bought them radios.
That helps to communicate with one another for sure.
Not now. It's
right.
A lot better. But they're still way behind.
Right.
Way behind.
Well, in your career of being involved in so many different conservation things and starting so many different groups and organizations, certainly had some frustrating things like what we're talking about here, but you've also had some big success.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And I just wonder, as we're kind of trying to wrap this up just a little bit, I'm really happy that you came on. I've really enjoyed this conversation. This is like the fastest hour I've ever had. It's been fantastic. I'd love to have you come back. But just to kind of wrap up this particular one, is you've had successes and failures and frustrations, which I think that's the nature of that road, of the conservation road. There's going to be constant obstacles being thrown in your way from people that want to do certain things that go against the conservation. And I just wonder, what advice would you give yourself maybe 20 or 30 years ago as you're getting involved in this, when you can look at it in hindsight? Because there's a lot of young guys that are, involved in Captains for Clean Water and CCA and in all of these different organizations. And I think that they would do well to listen to someone like yourself who's been doing this for a long time and had a lot of successes. Would you have any advice for yourself 30 years ago?
Yes, to make sure that you treat people with respect, even though you disagree with them wholeheartedly. I've had scientists just, in our fisheries over the years. I disagreed with them, but I was really good friends with them. Okay. And I learned from them and they learned from me, but it was like button heads. Okay. Even law enforcement. I mean, I had meetings with some of the biggest law enforcement in the state of Florida years ago, and just treat them with respect. I was a little passionate back then. I think one time it got a little bit out. Matter of fact, I even heard that if he wouldn't come back to the meeting, I got a little bit, and I learned something. I got a little bit, and some people, if they work in government, they're not going to listen to you. They don't have to. All right. That's the way it is. But you're still today, there's a lot to get involved in. And you want to encourage people, and you encourage them by treating. There's a lot of free stuff out there. You see all this stuff, how to do this, how to do that. There's nothing that they're really giving on conservation. Put a little bit of conservation in there. Tell somebody about this new here, that this isn't like, it's new to them, okay, but it's not new to us,
right.
The water quality. And Tom, there's a lot of things I'd love to come back and explain to people on water quality. It's cut and dry. I mean, people really don't realize. I mean, when you sit down and start talking about it, it's not that complicated, only in certain areas. The only complication is what we have brought to the table is conservationists, one group against the other on things. I mean, You want to go where, hey, guess what? You don't need any science on that. It's already there. They're doing that over there. Why aren't we doing it here? That kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. The infighting amongst conservation groups is frustrating. The infighting amongst certain fishing groups is frustrating.
Right.
With the experience that you have, how do we avoid that? How do we avoid being split apart when we have a similar objective for success? We just want to protect this place, or we want to be able to continue fishing. How do we prevent getting splintered off into these small groups that are fighting amongst themselves? Because it seems like to me that is the easiest way to defeat the open.
You're always gonna, from day one, you've always had that. You have what I call, well, I have a radical statement. I always say, I call them bunny huggers. They don't understand. You're hitting a wall. You always will. But if you explain to them a little bit, and that's all you can do, okay? It's just like the bears, okay? They're not going to do anything with these bears, hunting the bears, unless there's science involved. Mm-hmm. 90%, I told you, we have a constitutional amendment. It's got to have science with it, all right? A lot of that is connected. They're gonna know how many bears. They're going to know this. They're going to know that, okay? And you know, it goes for hunting and fishing, you know, in reality. By the way, we just had the trout symposium and managing, you know, the fish. There was a little bit on whether they ought to raise this minimum size from 15 to 16 inches. Do you know how many fish they'll kill? Trout is not a catch and release fish.
Right.
And if you do get into it, that's probably one of the hardest catch and release fish out there. You got to get real technical. Okay. You think about it, Tom. It's just not, unless you're doing it right.
So your position would be
they'll kill more fish going to that 16 inches. There'll be a lot of waste
because they're just so everybody I certainly understand what you're saying, but just so everybody's clear, it's a very fragile fish. It doesn't allow for a lot of handling. The more that you have to put it on the ruler and measure it, the more of those fish you're going to kill. That's right.
Right. That and targeting, right, to catch that legal size fish. That probably puts it into another year class too. Okay. We have a red tide. It may be a little longer in recovering. If somebody wants to eat a fish, and the 19 inches right now is heaven. Don't change things. Leave everything. It's working. It's working.
That's a perspective of a fisherman that has caught a lot of fish and seen a lot of fish. That is not necessarily a scientific perspective, where that just, for someone that would think, well, that's just a different age class. They don't realize how many you're going to need to catch that legal fish. And there are certain fish, a redfish can handle that kind of measurement. They can handle different things much more than a trout. A trout is much more fragile than a redfish. And those are just very, I think that is kind of where we kind of circle back to, of, in order to convey your expertise, your experience, and your opinion about these things, you have to treat these people, whether they're scientists or politicians or law enforcement people, with respect, so that you can have a conversation and explain to them your perspective. And maybe they listen to it, maybe they don't.
Well, when you have them and you're fishing, you don't want to wear them out. Okay. I've had governors. I've by the way, at the time of the redfish deal, okay, Bob Martinez was governor of Florida. Okay. And I took him out with Frank Sargent and in my boat. And that back then I had my first, one of the original towers, and was showing him, we're catching these redfish, okay, but we're catching snook. How many different species of fish did you catch here? Okay. And they're gill netting the redfish. Think of the other fish that they caught. And that's why we wanted management. Okay. The redfish management. All right. and making them a game fish like we did snooks. And he was one of the one that voted, okay, to change the vote to protecting the redfish. I saw Bob in Tampa and thanked him again for that vote, because that's what nailed it. Here's the difference. We had a bad red tide in Sarasota Bay. I mean, horrible, a while back. I mean, the worst I ever seen. There was nothing down there. I mean, it was bad. I said to Brian with CCA, Brian, you guys got any trout? They brought down 10,000 trout and stuck them in that bay down there off of City Island a year after the red tide. And buddy, that helped that bay repopulate. Okay. Now, got Captains for Clean Waters. Captain for Clean Waters was in Congress. They were in Tallahassee. I need that. Okay. I need that. All right. CCA was there too, but you need that. You need that. Keys Guides Association, Boca Grande Guides Association, Florida Guides Association. It's hard to get these. They don't get it. I don't understand with the guides, how many guides there are. They could have a huge organization with all the guides that are fishing today. They have no clue.
Do you think that it takes an impending disaster to bring?
That's exact. Yes. Yeah. To bark. Yep. Mm-hmm. Yep. That's what it does. And they're only there for that a lot. Not all of them. Some of them have been here from day one. Okay. And you want a sustainable fishery and you want to try to keep it at that. We have now some areas. Now I will say this. The snook lights have ruined the fishery, period.
Tell me why.
Because the fish, it offsets them. The lighting of the docks, all the personal stuff, the fish changed their patterns completely. It changed, especially on snooks. You do not see that class fish on the flats like you used to. And there's a reason. Okay. But you see them up the river. You go out of the Manatee River and I'll bet you there's 1,000 snook lights. And that's where they're going to hang. It's easy groceries. It's just like the bridges and the piers. Okay. All right. You know, why is your bait there at the bridges at night with the lights? Okay. Bottom line is that did change on the snook fishery a lot. It sure did. It sure did.
Do you think that's something that should be regulated? Obviously.
No, I don't think it can be. It's just something you realize. I mean, when you look at a tournament, they had a tournament the other day. The guy caught it in the river. I'll guarantee it was around, not at night. That's where those fish are laying around. I just gave you a big thumbs up. Because let me tell you, the trout are going to be around that light. The reds are going to be around that light. People want to know where to fish, even in the daytime. They ain't going far. Mm-hmm. They're not going far. They're going to lay around there. If it's got a snook light on it, they're going to be around that dock. Okay? Ask any diver. They'll tell you. I've sent divers to different places. Go to that dock, go to that. I'm curious what you see there, you know? Come back and tell me. The snook pattern has changed too. With the water getting hot, like we've had, water temperatures, a lot of your immature snook are dropping offshore. They're going to the reefs. A lot. They always did a lot, but there's more and more doing that. There's a lot more. And your fish that are north of here, I hear, why we got snook all over in Homosassa, Crystal River. They always had them there. They've had springs there. They had gill netting back then. It was very limited. Okay. You ain't gill netting those mullet without getting snooks. Mm-hmm. They kept them down. Now the water getting hot does make a difference. Okay. But I mean, they've migrated quite a bit. But that gill net fishing back then, that kept them in tune up there, I'm sure. Because a lot of the fish were caught in the rivers, the mullet.
Right.
You're not running a gill net in that ribbon rock. It ain't going to happen. You know, around those islands and stuff. It's very technical.
Yeah.
It's hard, you know.
So what do you think the future looks like for
It's not grim if we teach people that if they buy a house on a canal to put in artificial turf against the seawalls, okay, for Charlotte County to put in get the sewer hooked up and not have in Punta Gorda, not have all these people on septic tanks. East Coast is on 1 million septic tanks, educating people. You got to make it affordable, Tom. Do what the Keys did. They put the central sewer in, and they aerate the canals. All the canal systems need to be aerated. They need the water flowing. Mm-hmm. If the blue-green algae come out of Lake Okeechobee, and those algae, those molecules float into the canal system that's loaded with nitrogen, what's going to happen? It's like an explosion. That's what happened originally. Mm. And then the byproduct of the blue-green going into salt water evolved into a growth called Lingbia, and it attached to the seagrass, and it pulled the seagrass up and suffocated the seagrasses. It's like one going after another. The East Coast, like I said, and also, by the way, all the golf courses that are on the Indian River Lagoon, where is that water going?
Right into Okeechobee.
Yeah. Not just Okeechobee, Indian River Lagoon. Anywhere on the East Coast, opposite side of the intercoastal. I want you to think about this. That water, that retention should be hooked up to municipalities and go into the municipalities. You can't have blue-green now, by the way. It would blow them up. Mm. But more than anything, that water is toxic. It's been going. That didn't help Indian River Lagoon either. There was a time there was just a few. And there was a time there was just a few. There was a time that they were working septic tanks. They're 30-year-old leaching septic tanks, which my legislature here tried to run a bill through the legislature on septic tanks to be inspected. And I think something came out of it. I never got a full thing. But even being inspected, they left it up to the counties, I think. They didn't want to mess with it. Right. There was too many other ones that were afraid of losing, you know what, votes.
Yeah, right. Losing votes. And that's where it comes down to, too. And I think that's where some of the biggest successes that we have had in conservation have been when people feel as though if they get behind this, it's going to be good for their career rather than bad for their career. And that has been something that I've seen. I don't know. Seems like DeSantis likes to be on the side of the water quality because he feels like it's leading. Well,
he knows that he's doing one thing, which is development.
Sure.
I'll tell you, but he wants it done correctly. Okay. He does have a passion. Okay. And I've got friends that can't stand, that's all this that's going on and this, that, and the other. I don't look at it that way. I look at it, you're doing something. So what else are you doing? Right. What else have you done for us? I don't look at there's the big picture. We always have had development. When I graduated from high school, do you know what the biggest environmental thing was in Florida?
No, what is
Disney World.
Disney World.
1970. By the way, go back. It was one of the biggest environmental fights. They were quiet about it. Disney World. Okay. They should have bridged Alligator Alley, Moore, both of them. Both of them should have had more bridging. That would have helped with a lot of the problem because you can't drive water to one area and expect it to go everywhere. But that's what I'm trying to explain. I try to explain everything. The sheet flow goes all the way to the West Coast. Mm-hmm. How are you driving all this water over there? Okay. And by the way, if you get into politics, big sugar, okay, to one point, all right? Okeechobee we know that not a lot of it, the problem came from the north, to Okeechobee. There was a problem at Big Sugar at one time. Then they had to go. The Indians actually sued Big Sugar because they were back pumping on their property, and then they had to retain on that, but it didn't help. A lot of the damage wasn't done. Okay, a lot of the damage wasn't done. The Kissimmee River, you got how many people? 600,000 people on septic tanks. Now it only puts out so much, and then you have the ranchers. You do have the ranchers, but a lot of the ranchers are doing stuff now that I know of that are doing a lot of improvements. Charlie Likes is doing a lot of stuff down there, like Ferguson, because they know. But you got to remember, you didn't have all this other pollution going. The environment, back then it could take a little bit of nitrogen, but not what we're giving it now. That's what I'm trying to say. Okay, what's contributed? But the canals in Florida, that aeration to me is a huge deal. You want to get the water moving in these canals. That you don't want that water setting in the canals. By the way, Moat, it wasn't just a few years ago that the big deal is getting the fish that swim in the canals and die out of the canals, because if they die and fall to the bottom, it recreates red tide because of the nitrogen it produces. So that's one of the reasons. Okay. So aerating the canals is would be a big thing.
Yeah.
You could do it with solar.
Well, that's a good idea. It'd be a good use for solar, wouldn't it?
Yes. Yep. Follow what's already been done. They're making a big deal out of a lot of things. And I guess if you live on a canal system, put a buffer, even if it's 10 yards. If you took 10 yards and put in artificial turf, that would eliminate, it would have a little bit more filter till it gets to that canal system. Think of all the canals there are and what goes in our waters. Okay. It's a lot.
That's right.
You know?
And that's where education to the people that are moving here, not just the people that are moving here, but the people that just have a house there. What you put on your lawn is very, very important. And I think that Captains for Clean Water has done a really good job of that.
They've done a very good job, and we need them.
Yeah.
And, we need every organism. The Wildlife Federation, I've got plaques on the wall. I've got 9 plaques, and I'm blowing smoke here, but of what has been given to me over the years for going in, talking fishing and talking about the environment, what you could do as a fisherman, educating people. I mean, if somebody goes in the water down by the pass, okay, there might not be a sign there, but you might want to tell that guy, hey, that water's running 15 or 20 knots. You might not want to go swimming in there. Okay. Or you might, it's just you just be nice about it. All right. And tell people. All right. If you bought a house, I got a guy that just wants to go fishing. Hey, Scott, I bought a house on Lombo Key. I get him out fishing. I said, you might slip into it and say, hey, what you guys do a lot. You water your lawn, you do this, and slide it in there and educate them. And they'll think about it. They will. Most of the fertilizer, they've taken the nitrogen out of it. Tom, here's another one. Huge to think about. You know about the phosphate pits we've got?
Yes.
Close to the water? Now, we need that to grow food. We always needed that. Okay? They better be doing deep well injection up there in case they need to lower those. If we ever had a Hurricane 5, if we ever had a hurricane hit Tampa Bay, a 5, and those things broke, there would be no fishing for 60 miles. Okay? If they don't have deep well injection, the least of two evils, and be able to put that back in the ground, okay, in an emergency to lower those things, we're going to be in trouble. Okay, there's some things you got to do. You don't like it, okay, but that's what should be going on. By the way, that's what they're doing with the water at Piney Point. The county is running it through their central sewer to tertiary and putting it in the ground. And of course, they fought what's going in the ground, but it's the least of two evils. Okay, you got to accept something. It's not perfect, but I mean, what are you going to do? Put it in the water?
Right.
You don't want it put in the bay.
Right.
Okay. And educating people. By the way, that fertilizer goes on a barge, goes up the Mississippi to grow corn to go in your gas.
Yeah.
And they have tore up Florida for what?
Yeah. Ethanol. Well, there are a lot of issues, and there are some solutions. And I'll tell you what, we have. There are a few people like yourself who are leaders who have dedicated their lives to standing up for what they believe in and trying to do this in a way that it's effective. And I want to congratulate you for that. You've obviously done an incredible job of that. You have gotten a lot of things started, and you've made a tremendous impact on a lot of people and the entire state of Florida. You really have. And you're to be commended for that. So I'd love to have you on another time.
Absolutely, Tom. Yeah.
But congratulations on the boat ramp. I think that's really something. It would be pretty cool to go put in there with you one day.
It's the nicest boat ramp in Manatee County. We got a fish cleaning table of water. We even have an ice machine. Okay.
Put in there for free?
The ice machine is, you can put in for free. Yeah. Which is going to be a big thing. Our county, all our boat ramps are free.
Really?
And we're very fortunate here.
Yes.
We have been very fortunate here. And by the way, I like to thank you for your podcast and for educating people and how important it is for us and you doing what you're doing and educating the people. I appreciate it so much.
We all have to do something, and getting involved is better than sitting on the sidelines. So choose how you want to do it, and pick your fight, because there's plenty of them out there. That's what I think.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Thanks so much for this, and we'll stop today. But I do want to have you on again, and we can go over a lot of these other issues one by one. And I'd love to know what you think about so many things. But thanks so much for coming on today. I appreciate it. And
good fishing, everybody.